What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. Will, how you doing?
Steve, I'm doing well, but we finally got some NFL news. I don't think what we were hoping for.
Yeah, after a couple of weeks of just saying there's not a lot happening, we have Cam Akers go down with I believe it was a torn Achilles, right, Will?
Yes, torn Achilles. I thought I saw ACL at first, but it was reported and then confirmed Achilles.
Yeah, I guess from a fantasy standpoint this year, it's irrelevant. Achilles or an ACL is going to put you down for the year. I honestly don't know which one's better long term. I feel like Achilles might have a shorter time frame, but
yeah, I think maybe it's a shorter turnaround, but like a more difficult. Because I feel like Achilles definitely like end careers, whereas ACLs have become less of that.
It's gotten better
since like early 2000s when like guys are done for 2 years after an ACL, and that's really sped up the recovery time frame on that injury.
Yeah, it's a big loss. It definitely, I'm pretty sure you were on board, but that was kind of a core of our mid-round strategy, was picking up, a Cam Akers in the middle of the second round to complete that running back core. So that hurts.
I think he was, outside of John Taylor, he was like the consensus sophomore running back too, I think, in the draft here. Then you had the Dobbins, Clyde, and Swift in the mix after that.
Gibson,
yeah.
Gibson,
but I mean, he was kind of the guy that was ahead there. So definitely a tough loss. There's a lot of implications there. I think for redraft, because it happened so early, obviously Parker's out to the guy, and hopefully he recovers good. But it's good for redraft in the fact that most people haven't drafted yet, so he's not going to hurt your team. And it happened so early that as long as the recovery goes well, should have ample time to be ready for 2022.
Yeah, I think, the only people getting burned are all the best ball people, your Scotty Fishbowl, your fantasy charity events. I mean, all of them, a lot of them have happened, and I'm sure they've gotten burned. But yeah, for your vast majority of leagues that aren't drafting until August at some point, you've dodged a bit of a bullet. But yeah, it's a shame. The other not fun part is he's going to be stuck in our ADPs for a little while. So I'm sure he's going to pop up on the draft today, and then maybe next week he'll be down in like the fourth round, and he'll slowly kind of fade away from there. So
yeah, I wonder if Sleeper can do something where they can, IR him and because he's not playing this year, remove him from like the player pool.
Yeah, you would think you could just go into like the ADP data and just make it some absurd number, like his average draft position is like 300 or something.
For like redraft. But
exactly.
Then Dynasty, they can adjust it.
Yeah, I don't know, but
yeah. How do you view this from a Dynasty standpoint? If you're Akers owner, what are you doing? If you're not, are you looking to buy him as like a rebuilding team?
Oh boy, I would be willing to buy him if he was cheap. I don't know if anyone's going to be cheap. That's, a lot of people don't like selling low when they're young players. I am a bit worried because, Henderson's young. We've seen some good things of Henderson. If you give him the rock all year, maybe he turns into something. I don't know. We'll have to see. It all depends on who they bring in as well, right?
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. If it's just Henderson and the guys behind him, then Henderson probably has a ton of value. They bring in a return of Gurley, Bell, Duke Johnson's out there. There's enough guys that, if a veteran gets brought in, it probably just muddies the water more than anything. I want to say, dynasty-wise, this is probably a good time to try to sell Henderson. I know some people probably still like him, but his value, unless he breaks out and becomes like an elite running back, probably will be at an all-time high between now and the start of the season, right?
Yeah, unless you're a contender. If you're a contender, you probably don't want to get rid of him.
Yeah.
But, or if you're fringe.
Even so, if someone's willing to pay you a ton for him, you
could
then turn around and use those assets to trade more. But, yeah, it depends. I'm also interested to see what this does for the Rams offense, right? If I think they were going to rely on the run a lot more. Does this boost Stafford just from a volume standpoint? Obviously, you want to have a consistent run game, but not having a workhorse in Cam Akers, does that boost Stafford's value and the receiver's value?
Yeah, touchdowns, I might have went to the running back. Maybe, Cup gets a couple extra, Higbee gets a couple extra,
Yep.
something like that. And yeah, you just don't know. It's hard to say. They've seen a lot from Henderson. Again, he looked good in flashes, so maybe nothing really changes with the game plan. It's hard to say, man. Every situation is different, right?
Yeah, I just was going through my order here and lining guys up for Q, and I had to unstar Cam Akers.
Yeah, what a shame.
Yeah.
What can you do?
But getting to that, we have a draft here. Any other final notes there on Cam or even anything else around the league?
No, yeah, I think we're ready to jump in. We got a 12-team PPR. I am drafting out of the 1 slot. Will, you are drafting out of the 8 slot. So interesting for both of us. Me being at that turn, you are getting the pick of the litter after all the good running backs are gone. So
yeah,
most likely.
See. Maybe one falls.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hoping for Zeke. You never know. Zeke's been possibly available there.
Yeah, you'll also be in that spot in the second round where Cam Akers probably would have been. So
yeah,
interesting decisions. But you ready to jump in? Cool. Let's go ahead and get the draft started here. I don't think I've drafted out of the 1 slot all year, so this is pretty cool. There's not a lot to say though. I mean, my 101 and a lot of people's 101 is still Christian McCaffrey. I have no reason to really believe that he has fallen off at all. He is, from a fantasy standpoint, the most complete option out of them all as far as pass catching and rushing. So yeah, I'm just going to lock him in. There's really nothing more to say. I don't think anyone's going to hate that pick. So we'll lock him in. Camaro goes off the board. Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Saquon Barkley, and Nick Chubb. You're on the clock, my friend.
All right. So kind of what I guess overall would imagine. Tyreek going a little earlier helps there as well. It kind of puts me at the Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott debate. For me, and maybe it's wanting to diversify a little bit since we have JT in the dynasty. I'm going to go Zeke here. I just think there's a little more uncertainty with Jonathan Taylor, whereas Zeke, I think I've took him in a few places before. I think the volume's going to be there. I think the offense is going to be more dynamic. While I think Taylor, it's the volume. I think there's still a chance Zeke gets some volume there. So tough either way, or both are good players. Tough to do that. Probably the unpopular decision, but I'm going to go Zeke here, and we'll see what gets back. So Taylor goes after him, Metcalf, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, and DeAndre Hopkins. So interesting enough, Travis Kelsey falls back here. And I know we'd been talking about taking him in the first round and hoping that a running back gets back. So pretty much a no-brainer here. I think Cam Akers would be the only other potential guy that I'd be thinking about trying to get a second, big-time running back. But that not being the case now, pretty easy here. I'm going to snag up Travis Kelsey.
Yeah, I was actually thinking when you grabbed the 8 slot, I was like, oh man, we're both going to be forced to avoid that kind of early tight end thing that we've been relying on. And lo and behold,
I thought I had it made.
Yeah,
with him guaranteed to be gone by now.
Yeah, for real, very interesting.
So we'll lock Kelsey in here. Pretty easy for me. Zeke and Kelsey to start the season. Cam Akers goes off the board. As we kind of mentioned, he will be taken here until his ADP falls. Pat Mahomes. Going to be tough. I'm still saying Antonio Brown, but it's A.J. Brown at the 2-8. Antonio Gibson. That makes it even more difficult. Justin Jefferson, and then Najee Harris.
Yeah, so this is the first pick's pretty easy for me. I'm going to be locking in Calvin Ridley. Give me a nice balance. I always like my balance at my turns, and a very good high upside wide receiver with a good quarterback. So again, no one's going to be arguing with Calvin Ridley there, I don't think. It's the next one that I have a bit of an issue with. I wouldn't mind grabbing a Kittle or Waller if that's who you prefer. But I'm looking at Deandre Swift, and that's kind of hard to pass up too, especially knowing that I'm going to have a ton of players going off the board before I get my next pick. So it's really a roll of the dice if I do not grab another running back here of who's going to be remaining to me. With that in mind, I did a zero RB approach, and it wasn't our last draft, but I think the one before that. I forget which one I did, but it worked out quite well. So, I could pull it off, but I think I'm just not going to gamble. I'm going to grab Swift. I think he's kind of similar to McCaffrey. He's got pretty high upside given he's such a good pass catcher. So I'd be happy with Swift here. I just, I don't know who would get back to me if I were to go with a Kittle or a Waller. Am I looking down into that Myles Gaskin kind of tier? That's a pretty big drop for me. So
Swift going Swift over Dobbins there too. Any thought between the two of them?
Yeah, I like Dobbins, but the lack of touchdown upside with Gus there is just concerning. I guess really you could say the same thing about Swift. His lack of touchdown upside comes from the fact that the offense is probably going to suck.
Yeah.
So I guess they kind of balance each other out. But I look at Swift and it's his show. And because the wide receiver options are so poor, that could boost him up from a pass catching standpoint, where it's just not going to happen for JK. He might not get any pass catching at all, really. It's just not what Lamar and that offense has been doing as of late. So, while I do like him, I can't really see myself drafting him at all this year because of those reasons. So, we'll go ahead. We'll lock in Swift. We'll see what gets back to me here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes off the board. There goes Dobbins. Keenan Allen, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, Michael Thomas. So this is kind of interesting, Will. Would you have, Kittle's still on the board. Would you have rather had like an Antonio Gibson and then grab a Kittle here, or would you rather stick with Kelsey and whoever you're going to be grabbing?
Yeah, I guess in retrospect, Gibson and Kittle probably make more sense. I think Kelsey is still, kind of even head and shoulders above a Kittle and a Waller, just with the guarantee that what the offense is going to be and the volume. I think Waller and Kittle kind of both have both sides of what Kelsey's, what makes Kelsey elite. The consistency and the volume of Waller with the upside and the boom, touchdown dependency that you could get with Kittle, all wrapped up in Kelsey. But yeah, I think it's hard to say no to, an Antonio Gibson and Kittle combination there. So at this stage, I'm staring down Miles Sanders, Chris Carson, David Montgomery at running back, and then receiver looking at Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Julio, Mike Evans. So still some decent receivers. I think it's kind of a no-brainer here for me to take Miles Sanders. We've talked about him multiple times on the podcast here, but a tale of, a couple seasons. Huge hype going into last season after his rookie year, and then just kind of the opposite after a bad, not even bad, but let down because of the amount of hype that was there last year. So be happy to pair him with Elliott and Kelsey, have two running backs that I'm pretty confident in on top of Kelsey, and then, be able to swing back with a receiver. I just think, I would want to get Sanders, Carson, or Montgomery as my RB2, and maybe Hunt. I just don't see too much getting back to me after that, and I think there will be some of the receivers available. So going to be snagging Mr. Miles Sanders here, and we'll see what gets back. Kittle goes next, Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson, Mike Evans, Chris Carson, Josh Allen goes off the board, David Montgomery, and Julio Jones. So at the running back position, we still have Kareem Hunt, Travis Etienne, Myles Gaskin, James Robinson. Big three tight ends are off the board. Everyone else is there. And for quarterback, we've just had Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes go. Lamar Jackson is top on the board here, but not really in consideration, especially going early tight end already in this draft. So I'm probably going to be looking at receiver or running back. Kareem Hunt is interesting, especially getting a third good running back here where, there's probably going to be a drop-off. You're just kind of taking shots on guys after that. But I think you want to get a more high-upside receiver. Now, the tough part is here, I think Zeke already do I want to double down on the Dallas offense with Amari Cooper, or do I want to take a guy like Chris Godwin looking to bounce back? Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Robert Woods all on the board. To me, it's going upside with Woods with Cooper, or taking more of a safe option with Godwin. And when in doubt, I'll try to diversify a little bit away here. So I'm going to go with Chris Godwin, lock him in as my first receiver, have a little bit more safety and be able to take more upside shots because there is going to be other receivers available that probably are a little more questionable in the later round. So Chris Godwin here. After Chris, you have Kyler Murray, Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper, Travis Etienne, and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, so we're on the clock here at the running back position. Kareem Hunt, Myles Gaskin, James Robinson, Javonte Williams. So kind of that tier that I was expecting to get here at the wide receiver position. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Kenny Golladay. So some pretty interesting options there. Going back-to-back's pretty helpful because I don't really have to play the game too much of who I want. So we'll lock in the wide receiver first. And I think, I've been warming up to him or trying to force myself to warm up to him because I've always liked him so much and I just kind of avoided him after his ADP rose last year. But Cooper Kupp, I think, is the guy I'm going to get. Again, it's been part of me trying to warm up to him, but at the same time, with recent news, it's also kind of impacting. Does that, raise up a Cooper Kupp a little bit or Robert Woods a little bit? Is there a little bit more passing volume, a little bit more touchdown opportunity? All of the above, maybe. I don't know. So we're going to go ahead and lock in Mr. Kupp. That is kind of worrisome because I'm not sure I want like Kupp and Higbee. And given I'm leaning towards a later tight end strategy, Higbee would have been one of those good options. So, that's kind of worrisome, but I don't want to pass up on a Kupp and then get burned and not get a Higbee later. So we'll lock in Kupp now, and then I want to turn and grab another running back because it's just going to thin out that much more by the time 23 picks or whatever go by. So we got Hunt, Gaskin, James Robinson, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, Mike Davis. That is the tier that we're in right now. Like Will, I'm looking at Kareem Hunt, and that's a really interesting pick. Gaskin, I think, will be solid. I'm looking more at Javonte Williams. Like, maybe he should be the guy. I could pick him and get burned and just end up being a 50-50 split, but I think the upside could be pretty high there. And, they're not going to have the quarterback play to really sling the ball around. So he interests me a lot where, Kareem Hunt is very talented and, you assume he's not going to get shut out completely, but he is technically the two there. So it's a tough roll of dice. I think I'll play it. No, I'm not going to play it safe. I'm going to grab Javonte Williams. I think he's got pretty high upside. I'm happy with McCaffrey and Swift. So if Javonte, does start in a timeshare, I feel comfortable waiting for a few games for him to, shake off Melvin Gordon. So yeah, we're going to pick Javonte there, kind of round out my first three running backs. Mark Andrews goes off the board, Robert Woods, Kyle Pitts, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and there goes Hunt right before you. I know you were looking at Hunt and hoping he got back to you. That would have been a great value, but not to be.
Not to be. Him, I was looking at Woods and Lamb as well, unfortunately, but they both went. So running back, it did kind of drop off a bit. We've got Myles Gaskin, James Robinson, Melvin Gordon, Fournette. Gaskin's interesting here in the fifth round, especially with the fact that they just haven't added anybody else. So he's kind of one of the last remaining kind of top-level guys from a volume standpoint. Receiver, Kenny Golladay, Tyler Lockett, Devonta Smith, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson. So still quite a few options available there. I would be okay with one of those three as my second receiver. So it's kind of the gamble. Do I want to risk? I think Lockett's kind of head and shoulders above the rest. I want to risk Lockett not getting back and any one of them, but having Myles Gaskin as my next running back, or locking in Lockett here and then looking at a Melvin Gordon, Fournette, or Mike Davis likely in the next round, probably a receiver at that point. I think I'm going to go with, just the better player, and I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett. I've only got the one receiver here in the fifth round. Already got two running backs. And so me banking on them, if they don't pan out, probably, not doing too hot anyway with it all relying on your top picks a lot of times. So I'm going to start building some depth at the receiver position. We'll just go with the best value, I think, the best overall player there, and that's going to be Tyler Lockett in that offense with Russell Wilson. After him, Kenny Golladay, Dak Prescott goes off the board, James Robinson, Devonta Smith, Russell Wilson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham, and Mr. Deontay Johnson. So it actually worked out. I did not think Gaskin would get back. I was actually probably banking on taking a receiver here. But most of the guys I wanted went, and Miles Gaskin's still on the board. So pretty easy here. Would probably like to get a third receiver soon, but can't turn down the volume of one of the top running backs from a volume standpoint. So being able to pair Gaskin up with this team and getting Lockett, I don't imagine he would have got back to me if I hadn't taken him. Seems like a no-brainer. So we're going to lock in Miles Gaskin. Here's my 6th pick. After him, TJ Hawkinson, T. Higgins, Raheem Mostert, Herbert, Ayuk, and Cortland Sutton.
Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. I would have liked Hawkinson to get to me. That would have avoided me falling further down in the tight end waiting game, but lo and behold, it didn't happen. From a running back standpoint, there's still plenty of good options here. Mike Davis, Chase Edmonds ain't bad. James Conner, if you want to put your bet there. David Johnson, we've talked about a fair bit. Michael Carter, but Mike Davis to me is a tier above the rest of these guys, and he provides me that stability to kind of wait for Javonte Williams a little bit more. So he by and far is an easy pick for me. It gives me 4 running backs in those first 6 rounds. So now, as it continues to drop off, I could just wait and start picking up other positions. So we'll go ahead and lock him in immediately. It's the other positions where things start getting a little bit more iffy. So at quarterback, we still got Aaron Rodgers there, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Tom Brady's there. At wide receiver, we got DJ Chark, Chase Claypool, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Deebo Samuel. And then at tight end, Noah Fant, Goddard, Gesicki, Gronk. So I'm looking at Rodgers thinking, in the 7th round, that's a pretty good deal to be grabbing Rodgers. The other part of me says I could roll the dice and maybe Brady gets back to me or Stafford gets back to me. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people that have quarterbacks already. And I'm not at the stage where I'm really worried about anybody taking 2. So, Brady or Stafford getting back to me, I think is feasible. Jalen Hurts and Tannehill are still there too. So kind of want to pass up there. Look at the tight end position. I like Fant. I like Goddard. Gesicki ain't bad. Gronk's interesting. But I don't know that I want to take him now. It feels early to be grabbing somebody in that kind of a tier, but that's kind of where you got to draft him, right? So that's not good. At the wide receiver position is really where I'd like to grab somebody, but no one's really jumping out at me. DJ Chark, he's fine. Claypool's kind of interesting. Waddle's, no, not for me. No, I'm just not a fan of rookies, especially in his situation. Jerry Jeudy's kind of interesting. Deebo's interesting. Robbie Anderson's interesting. So that's probably the tier that I'm going to be looking at. And I think of all of them, Deebo is the one that I feel best about because I like the offense as a whole more so. If you want to go Jeudy or you want to go Robbie Anderson, I'd have no issue with that. But I think Deebo is going to be my guy. So we're going to lock him in there. DJ Chark goes right after. Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, Trevor Lawrence going before Aaron Rodgers. Interesting. Jerry Jeudy, and then Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, it's interesting. Rodgers still on the board there. Definitely is enticing. I have 3 of the 4 teams behind me have already taken a quarterback. So it is also enticing to risk him getting back in the 8th round. But let's take a look at what we can get instead. We've got Ronald Jones available, Kenyon Drake, Connor, David Johnson, Michael Carter, and Trey Sermon. Nothing, I think, that stands out above Aaron Rodgers at that stage. So go over to receiver. Claypool, we got Robbie Anderson, Cooks, Laviska Shenault, Jarvis Landry, Jalen Waddle. Some interesting guys. I think Robbie and Laviska probably are the most interesting here. And I'd hope that one of them gets back, but I'm unsure about that. I would probably lean taking Robbie here, but I don't know that I can take Robbie over an Aaron Rodgers and locking in a guy that has that top 5 potential at the position, QB1 potential, really. So that's going to have to be the case, and we'll have to wait another round to get my third receiver because Aaron Rodgers here in the 7th round, I think, pretty much no-brainer. Would love to risk it. We'll see what Team 9 behind me does, but not going to do that based on just what else is going to be there available. So Aaron Rodgers it is. First time I think I might have drafted him this offseason. James Conner goes after him.
Have you ever owned him before?
Not that I can
That's what I'm
think
thinking.
of.
Like, he tends to go so early. He's not someone that either of us have ever owned.
I don't think I've really had him rostered before.
Yeah, wow.
So that would be fun to be able to get in there, especially if there's still some risk that he's not going to play.
Yeah, for sure.
You may see him fall in drafts, but after him, James Conner, Noah Fant, Chase Claypool, Jalen Waddle, Dallas Goedert, Kenyon Drake, Ronald Jones, and Joe Burrow. So for the second round in a row, or second, I guess, turn in a row, the other player that I was considering falls to me again here with Robbie Anderson still available. Laviska and Jarvis are interesting as well, but I think Robbie just has a ton of upside pairing back up with Darnold, being the number 2 by himself there with Curtis gone. I think it just makes a lot of sense. So getting him here as my third receiver, thrilled here in the 8th round, pretty much rounds out most of my starting roster outside of maybe a second flex, depending on what we're working with here. So pretty easy. Robbie Anderson off the board. After him, Brandon Cooks, Deontay Johnson, Michael Carter, Trey Sermon, Jarvis Landry, and Tom Brady goes right before you.
Yeah, Brady sniped for 1 pick before mine. But
I think you're the only team without a quarterback now, too.
I am, yeah. In a regular draft, this would be the greatest position of all to be in.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of interesting, Will, because, I mean, if you're thinking real draft right now, you have whatever, you're 25% in a league that's going to draft 2 people or so, or 2 quarterbacks. I mean, so you got Stafford, you got Jalen Hurts, you got Tannehill, you got Matt Ryan, comfortable with all those
some
options.
Good quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, so I had no issue waiting. And then again, we bring it up time and time again, but, ideally, once draft season, you'll know about the Winston, Taysom Hill, and you can add them to your list if you're comfortable with them. So, yeah, I mean, if this is a real draft, I'd be just putting this position and waiting for several rounds before I grab somebody. But it's not. So we're going to go ahead and lock in Stafford. I called him out before. I also get to stack with him and Cup, which is nice. So going to go ahead and lock him in. It's the next pick that is more challenging. So at the running back position, we got Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, Damian Harris, A.J. Dillon. At the wide receiver position, Laviska, Will Fuller, Hollywood Brown. We got Tyler Boyd, Rashad Bateman, Corey Davis. At tight end, still Gesicki, Gronk, Tunyon, Irv Smith, Logan Thomas. I'm looking at Damian Harris, and he's kind of hard to pass up. But I'd also really like to lock in another running back, a wide receiver. I feel pretty comfortable at running back right now. I feel less so at the wide receiver position. So I think I am going to go and grab an upside shot in Laviska, Chenault, Jacksonville. Yeah, I think that kind of rounds things out a little bit better. I mean, Damian Harris would be great, and if he shows what he showed last year and Javonte Williams is something, I got a lot of trade bait there. But, again, if Debo ends up getting just stuck and, 1 week it's Kittle, 1 week it's Ayuk, 1 week it's the running game, 1 week it's Debo, and he's just, like in the middle, I'm hurting. And I don't want to wait too long to grab another running back. So Laviska, I think makes sense there. It seems you agree. So I'm glad we're on the same page there. So we're going to go ahead and lock him in. And eventually got to start looking to solve this tight end thing. I don't like late round tight ends this year. There's just no one. But after my pick, we have Will Fuller, Hollywood Brown, Gesicki, Gronk, Zach Moss, and Tyler Boyd.
All right. So for my team here, I've already got a quarterback and a tight end, so I'm not going to be looking there. 3 receivers, 3 running backs, so pretty well rounded there. So we'll likely be looking at getting another running back or receiver. Receiver position, we've got Rashad Bateman, Corey Davis, Curtis Samuel, Michael Pittman, Antonio Brown, Michael Gallup. So decent receivers, and all of them would be, I think, pretty solid as my fourth receiver. Quite a few available there as well. Running back, really only interested here probably in Damian Harris. I don't really like Devin Singletary that much. Nyheim Hines is interesting. Gus Edwards as well. Maybe a little early on them. By draft season, who knows? Maybe their stock is up, and this is where you have to take them. Now, I want to get your ruling on this because there is someone that I want to take here, but I don't imagine their ADP will be here. That's someone that's still on the board because Cam Akers has been hurt, and we still have Daryl Henderson on the board.
Yeah.
Where do you think he's going to be going? Like, I imagine his ADP will be flying up the boards at this point.
Yeah.
Like, he goes before Moss, right? He goes before
I was assuming
David Johnson and Carter.
I was thinking fifth. Maybe he gets up into the fourth, but I was thinking fifth.
Yeah.
Who is going in the fifth? Kareem Hunt, James. Like, would I rather have Henderson or James Robinson? I'd rather have Henderson. The problem is we're down the sixth round, and Gaskin and Davis. I guess I'd rather have Henderson. I mean, maybe not. I guess that's just at the end of the day where I think he probably belongs. The Hunt, James Robinson kind of grouping. If he gets up into the fourth round, that wouldn't surprise me. Like, personally, I'd rather have Henderson over ETN. ETN's just really high up there. I'd probably rather have him over Javonte Williams too.
Yeah, until we find out if they sign anybody else. I mean, he's a no-brainer ahead of most of these kind of timeshare running backs.
Especially if it's Gurley. Because if you sign Gurley, I know Gurley's not that worrisome anymore, but it could worrisome.
That's a word.
Gurley could end up creating a Dobbins, Gus Edwards situation where Henderson's upside gets nerfed because Gurley's getting all the goal line carries. That would worry me a fair bit. So yeah, I mean, that just plays to your point. It depends if they bring anybody in, but right now I'd say probably fourth or fifth round. Is that where you think too?
Yeah, I would think probably fourth, fifth, sixth round. I could see him kind of around that Kareem Hunt, James Robinson, Myles Gaskin tier, and probably ends up pushing ahead of those if they don't bring anybody in as we get closer and closer to the draft. I think he probably ends up in the fourth-ish round, barring them signing somebody else.
Cool. So is he going to be your pick here, or? I'm
going to pretend like I guess he's off the board at this point, just because I think it's probably more of like a cheap pick. So I'm going to go with Damian Harris. There's really not too many other running backs that I think have the upside that he has this late in the game, getting him as my fourth back. You can, be looking probably to get a Hines, a Gus Edwards, Jamal Williams, somebody else a little bit later as like a fifth back. But I think there's upside with Damian Harris, and there's enough receivers that I'll be okay getting my fourth receiver in the next round on the turn there. So we're going to go and lock in Damian Harris here. After him, Ryan Tannehill, Irv Smith, Robert Tonyan. Robert Tonyan, do you really think he's going to be getting drafted in leagues? I'm just unsure. I can't see that.
Well, we're at the stage where Sleeper's drafting multiple tight ends.
Yeah.
So let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So he's the 12th one off the board. Technically he would be. But I am going to assume in your real draft, people are going to take Logan Thomas, Higbee, Ingram. I don't know what they're going to do with the Hunter Henry Jonnu situation. I'm assuming in everyone's league, you have a fantasy footballer fan that's going to be drafting Troutman somewhere. Maybe Jared Cook. So no, I mean, he just offers touchdown upside, right? Like, he scores, he's good. If he doesn't,
Aaron Rodgers is there too. There's even the Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, for sure.
Potential not being there, scared.
I guess he's not all that different from like a Gesicki or a Gronk, or, maybe Irv works out that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, if you're going to bet on somebody like that, would you rather bet on the Green Bay offense or the Dolphins offense? I guess it's fine from that standpoint, but I'd imagine others go before him.
Yeah, well, that being said, it's just interesting to see him there. The turn, Bateman and Corey Davis, Logan Thomas, Jalen Hurts, and then Nyheim Hines. So I'm back on the board, and most of the receivers that I was looking at, Curtis Samuel, Pittman, Antonio Brown, Michael Gallup, all on the board here. Curtis Samuel is the one that sticks out to me and the guy that I'm going to lock up as my fourth receiver. Interesting to pair him back up with Robbie Anderson, former teammate from the previous year. But I just like the upside. There's really no one that's clearing away the number 2 pass weapon. I guess you could say Antonio Gibson, Kissick, the running backs. But I am not sold on Thomas, especially if Fitz is the quarterback. He hasn't traditionally gone to the tight end position, and maybe that changes because they have a quality tight end in Logan Thomas, but I think he comes back to earth a little bit, and we see one of the receivers step up, and I'd put my chips on Curtis Samuel there. So I'm going to lock in Curtis as my fourth receiver. After Curtis, we've got Devin Singletary, finally Antonio Brown, got it right this time, Mike Williams, Michael Pittman, A.J. Dillon, and Deshaun Watson.
Okay, fair enough. I was looking at Mike Williams. Surprise, surprise, to no one.
Yeah.
Always somebody that I'm taking a look at there. But let's see here. We'll run down my 3 key positions here. So running back, we got Gus Edwards. We got Tony Pollard, Todd Gurley, Kenneth Gainwell, Daryl Henderson. We're going to skip Jamal Williams, J.D. McKissick at wide receiver. Gallup, Devontae Parker, Darnell Mooney, Elijah Moore, Henry Ruggs, Hardman, Rondell Moore, T.Y. Hilton. At tight end, Hunter Henry, Tyler Higbee, Evan Ingram, and Zach Ertz. I'm going to do something really gross that I think is going to surprise you, Will. I know, for real. So first, before I do that, I'm going to take an upside shot at the running back position. Again, I got McCaffrey, I got Swift, Javonte Williams, Mike Davis. I feel pretty comfortable with that. I want to take a shot on someone like Kenneth Gainwell and see if maybe he's got some sort of like Austin Eckler-like upside to him. Is that
yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah, it's not a strong likelihood. Like, it's not super high odds, but I can afford to take the gamble. Gus Edwards, solid, but I don't feel like I need that kind of depth right now. And you could say the same thing about everyone else. So I'm taking an upside shot. The pick that you're not going to like, Will. Maybe you will. Oh man. So I'm looking at this tight end thing I got to figure out, right?
Still need one.
They're all gross.
Zach Ertz?
No.
Taking him? I know you love Zach Ertz.
No. So, so you can make there's a problem with all of these guys, right? Like Hunter Henry and Jonnu. Which one is it? Or do you want to own any of them? Like, it might just be neither. Higbee would probably be my option, but I own Kupp and Stafford already. I'm not tying, too closely to the Rams offense. So Higbee's out. Zach Ertz is done. Probably. Austin Hooper, I don't like. Hooper was fine in Atlanta, but the moment he moved to tight end, or the moment he moved to Cleveland, I said no. So no.
I know what it is.
Troutman's a fine. I know, because I jumped over him. Troutman.
No, it's not even him. You're going to
it is
the glory play of Tim Tebow, right?
Oh yes, of course. Everyone wants Mr. Tim Tebow. Troutman is, like I said, everyone's upside shot. I don't mind taking the gamble on Troutman, but it is a gamble. We haven't seen anything. Gerald Everett is fine. Cook, that might work out. Maybe he might just be broken. Cole Kmet could break out. Fersker, not bad. But I think the one I'm going to draft is Evan Ingram, which
do it.
It feels gross. But he got a ton of targets and with the Giants last year. I'm assuming that offense is going to be better with Saquon there and Kenny G. But I don't think the team's bad enough to where they're not going to need to keep throwing the ball all over the place. So I think they could support Kenny G and Ingram and Barkley.
It's got a lot of Daniel Jones.
It's a lot. The good thing about Daniel Jones is, the more interceptions you throw, the further behind you get, and then the more throwing you have to do. That's
the old Jameis Winston.
Exactly. Yeah. So it could work out.
So pick 6 as the first play of the game.
Yeah. Suddenly you're behind. You got to chuck the ball around. So yeah, do I love it? No, obviously. Would I be in love with anyone I picked here? No, because they're all in the same kind of tier, but he's got a pretty high upside, that, again, I can see upside in Higbee. I can see it in Troutman. I don't see it in Hunter Henry. I don't see it in Jonnu or Hooper. Troutman, maybe Everett, Cook, commit. Like, I just don't see it. And I do see it there. I mean, maybe you want to take a shot on Blake Jarwin. The problem with Blake Jarwin is that CeeDee Lamb's emerging now, and the offense isn't going to support 4 different receiving options plus Zeke. It's not consistently anyway. So I'll lock him in there and just, it is what it is. And might be the only time I ever draft Evan Ingram this year, but there it is. Michael Gallup, Justin Fields, Mooney, Cousins, Matt Ryan, and Hunter Henry. You're on the clock.
All right. So still not looking at quarterback or tight end, but I'll give you a little rundown so you can see where we are in the 11th round. Baker, Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tua, Daniel Jones. So still some starting quarterbacks on the board if you really waited this long and missed Cousins and Matt Ryan just ahead. Tight end we kind of talked about, so I won't belabor that again, but there's not a ton there. Receiver, you're looking at Devontae Parker, Elijah Moore, Henry Ruggs. I think Henry Ruggs is a pretty good shot at this stage of the draft. Upside guy. Mecole Hardman, Rondale Moore, Marvin Jones, Nelson Aguilar. So still quite a few receivers. Russell Gage is there. Going to lock in, surprise, surprise, the guy that I've had probably most drafts here is Gus Edwards, still here on the 11th round. The guy that I'm thrilled to have as my 5th running back behind Damian Harris there. And he's just a guy that I think you can plug in as, worst case scenario and hope for a touchdown. Probably going to get at least 40 yards, maybe a couple catches. So he'll have a low floor, but not like a 0 floor just because of the volume that they run at. So pretty easy to lock in Gus here. After him, Elijah Moore, Devontae Parker, Tony Pollard, Baker Mayfield, Tyler Higbee goes, Henry Ruggs, kind of a bummer. Mecole Hardman, and Todd Gurley, interestingly enough, listed in Atlanta, but I wonder if that ADP is starting to rise with people considering him as a possibility for the Rams.
It's possible. I would find it hard to believe that their ADP was updated that quickly, but yeah, I don't remember seeing him up here. So yeah.
I guess at the end of the draft, though, even if every draft he gets taken now in the 14th round, that's going to bump his ADP up ahead of normal 14th round guys, I guess, right?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
Versus it takes maybe a lot more to move people that are at the top of the draft up or down.
Yep, probably.
So it's interesting because you still got Russell Gage, Marvin Jones, Aguilar, some interesting players there. I think Marvin Jones is probably my pick here. Try to keep a balance. But Jamal Williams is interesting as well. Maybe I'm hoping he would get back to me in the next round. But I think Marvin Jones kind of head and shoulders upside-wise ahead of everyone else and plays into our narrative of being completely off of DJ Shark after the past couple of years. I think at least one of us was interested in him in the last few years, but not so much this year.
Yeah, a lot of bad stuff coming out. I mean, I don't want to say bad stuff. Yeah. Just not great stuff.
Yeah, not what you want to hear from a coaching staff about a player on a new team that they're taking over for. So Marvin Jones it is. Rondale Moore next. T.Y. Hilton, Nelson Aguilar, Trey Lance, Jonnu Smith, and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
So we're back on the clock here. I don't really have to do anything. We're taking a look at the running backs. Henderson.
Well, you have to pick somebody.
I do have to pick somebody, but I don't need a certain position here. So I got Jamal Williams, who I don't want because I already got Swift. McKissick, Latavius Murray, Philip Lindsay, Chuba Hubbard, Alexander Mattson, Tariq Cohen, Tevin Coleman, Le'Veon Bell, Sony Michel, Penny, Javian Hawkins. I mean, blah.
Not great.
Not great. On the wide receiver position, we got Russell Gage, which would be great, but I got Calvin Ridley already. Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis, Jalen Reagor. We got Terrence Marshall, Paris Campbell, Christian Kirk, Kadarius Toney, Crowder, Shepard, Myers, Traquan Smith, John Brown, Van Jefferson. So not great either. It's tough. I think, I'm looking at the wide receiver grouping, and that's super comfortable with it. But comfortable enough to where I think I'd rather take an upside shot in, say, Gabe Davis than take a safety shot in Cole Beasley. The safety guys can be found on the waiver wire a little bit easier than the upside guy. So I'm going to take a shot on Gabe Davis and kind of just see what happens over the first couple weeks. He popped off for a few weeks last week or last year. So we've seen something. So we'll lock in Gabe Davis there. And then, believe it or not, I'm actually going to go back to tight end because I don't.
Double dip.
Yeah, I don't trust Ingram. And if, this might be a persistent strategy with me where if we miss out on some of them top guys, I'd rather have 2 shots just to see in week 1 if either of them actually do anything. And then I will grab everyone's favorite Adam Chapman.
There we go.
He's the perfect one to see, what happens week 1, given he's kind of like the new breakout.
And he's someone that you wouldn't mind hanging on to. Like maybe you cut Ingram for streamer tight end of the week, and then you hang on to Troutman for another week or 2.
Exactly. So I think he's a perfect guy to pair with Ingram just to kind of figure that position out. There goes Daryl Henderson. So that was his ADP originally, Will. 13th round.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's going to get a jump. Zach Ertz, Russell Gage, Jamal Williams, J.D. McKissick, Cole Beasley.
All right. So looking probably to go another 1 running back, 1 receiver here. Running backs, looking at probably like a Latavius Murray, Phillip Lindsay's interesting, especially this late in the draft. You could argue he's a starter. I know Dave Johnson went much earlier. You still have Mark Ingram there, but Phillip Lindsay, I think, should be able to get some work in that offense. Really only Tevin Coleman, I think, is the only other guy that interests me. Javian Hawkins is like a late round guy. And then some interesting shots. Jalen Reagor, I think this late in the draft isn't bad taking a shot on to see how they look, how the offense looks early. There's not a ton else. John Brown is someone that I think is a really good late round flyer too. He's pretty far down there. I think you may be able to get him with my next pick. Van Jefferson, Nico Collins, Brian Edwards. So enough receivers that I don't mind taking a shot on there. So that I will be more than okay to take a Phillip Lindsay here and then grab receiver of my next pick. Austin Hooper, Latavius Murray, Carson Wentz, Terrace Marshall, Chuba Hubbard, Jalen Reagor, Alexander Madison, and Tariq Cohen. So Reagor was one I was kind of hoping for. Him being off the board, my second option is going to be John Brown. As I mentioned, it's really just Ruggs, Brown, and Edwards. And Brown is really the only one that's truly proven. I think we saw some good flashes out of Ruggs last year and a little bit out of Edwards. I know I'm high on him, hoping that he breaks out, but I think you're going to see, probably more consistency out of John Brown. So he probably should be taken ahead of Brian Edwards, as much as it pains me to say. So going to lock in John Brown as my last pick here. Keep some good balance on the team. Outside of that, we've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, Gerald Everett, Aaron Fitzger, Christian Kirk, Paris Campbell, and Jared Cook.
Oh, boy. So, believe it or not, the last pick, there's plenty of decent options here.
Yeah.
As stupid as it sounds, both Detroit wide receivers are still here. Perriman and Tyrell Williams.
Yeah, that is weird.
It's gross, but it's a starting wide receiver. Yeah. They're both good at, catching bombs too, which I'd imagine they're going to be needing to do. We have the young upside guys that we both like in Nico Collins and Brian Edwards. You have the kind of old broken veteran that's in a new situation that, you can roll the dice on late, AJ Green. I've drafted him a couple times in my last pick. But I think for the sake of this draft, I am going to go with Mr.
Not sold on the player.
No, yeah. Okay, so it's between Nico Collins and Brian Edwards. Nico Collins has the better chance to me at being, well, he's not got a better chance of being the one because Brandon Cooks is there. So, blah. You know what? I'll take Nico Collins. Yeah,
there it is.
I'll take Nico Collins. It really doesn't matter. It's a toss-up to me. They're pretty similar situations. Brian Edwards might be the safer option because he's got a reliable quarterback and a decent offense where Houston's just trash all around. But I think he's got higher upside maybe maybe, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's the last pick. So we're going to go ahead and lock in Mr. Nico Collins. That concludes our draft. Will, do you want to run down your roster?
Sure. So quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Running backs, we've got Ezekiel Elliott, Miles Sanders, Myles Gaskin, Damian Harris, Gus Edwards, and Phillip Lindsay. At wide receiver, Chris Godwin, Tyler Lockett, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, Marvin Jones, and John Brown. And at tight end, Travis Kelsey. Pretty happy overall. I think I've got a pretty good balance on the team. A couple of really good value picks there. Banking on top 2 running backs probably hitting, but I've got a solid 2 receivers, so that as long as one of the other 4 break in, I'm pretty solid there, and hoping that another one of them or one of the running backs can step up for the flex. But Aaron Rodgers and Kelsey is pretty good anchors at those 2 kind of single positions.
Yeah, agreed. And for me, we got Mr. Stafford at quarterback, a running back McCaffrey, Swift, Javonte Williams, Mike Davis, Kenneth Gainwell. At wide receiver, Ridley, Kupp, Debo, Shenault, Gabe Davis, and Nico Collins. And then at tight end, both Evan Ingram and Troutman. Overall, I like the team a lot. The tight end worry is definitely a worry, but you got to keep in mind, I do have the elite CMC. Who is going to cover up some issues. So if Ingram or Troutman can just be, a decent tight end, I should be fine. So I like that team. I do see some risk with it, but overall, I like it. It's pretty good. It's interesting, Will, how you could draft. You can look at a team and be like, wow, I don't think I've done a draft with like half of these people on the team. And a lot of it just depends on where you're drafting from. I haven't had a chance for McCaffrey or Ridley or Swift or Kupp because I haven't drafted out of the 101 yet. It's interesting to see. But that's going to wrap up the mock draft. Will, you have any closing thoughts looking at the board?
Yeah. Nothing major. I mean, we'll have to keep an eye on the ADP for guys that are moving around with injuries and players on the team being injured, as we mentioned with the Rams running back situation. And hold your breath. We've got a full few weeks here of training camp ahead of us in preseason before season, and hopefully Cam Akers is the only major injury we get, but something tells me there will be more, unfortunately, as there always is.
Yeah, history shows that they will be more. So we'll see. Hopefully by next week, got the next draft, we'll have a little bit of an update to Daryl Henderson's ADP. I'm not sure how quickly it'll be adjusted up to like a natural position or if it's going to slowly kind of grow over time. But, we'll start to see that play out and see how it changes the mocks. Cool. Then until then, folks, trust your board.